to the official podcast at contentchampion.com. Join our heroic quest to discover truly epic content marketing. Introducing your host, the content champion himself, Loz James.
Hello again. Welcome to show number 46 of the Content Champion podcast. Thank you for listening. Now, every content marketer knows that to run a successful online business, you must start an email list. But what smart marketers also appreciate is that to take things to the next level, you need to start segmenting your lists too. Now, there are quite a few software solutions available that can do this, but many come with enterprise level price tags and loads of features you just don't need. So what about the ambitious content marketer on a budget, who's using an email software such as Aweber, which I use and recommend, but who also wants a simple, competitively priced solution for segmenting their email lists like all the most successful online marketers do? Well, for the last 3 months, I've been testing a new email segmenting system called Automator, which helps you build stronger, more profitable relationships with your Aweber lists. And I'm excited to report that the results have been nothing short of fantastic. I've now split my existing single list into 5 more targeted sections and can see a load of great opportunities going forward using the Automator software. So as my guest on today's show, I'm delighted to be speaking with successful entrepreneur and creator of Automator, Rob Woodgate, who is kind enough to outline what exactly we can achieve using his software and what it can mean for our businesses. Let's dive in. Thanks for coming on, Rob.
You're welcome, Lars. Good to be here.
Now, internet marketer, cognitive hypnotherapist and keen sailor, you're also founder of Automator, the Aweber marketing automation software that we'll be discussing today. Now, I've just started using this product, and for pricing and features combined, I think it's a game changer for the way you segment and sell to your email lists. We'll get onto that in a moment, but first, Rob, tell me your backstory, and don't forget to include the hypnotherapy and the sailing, and I'm especially interested in the latter, as my dad used to take us out in a mirror dinghy at Herne Bay when I was younger.
I suppose you could say that my backstory is one that's really driven by a love of learning and a deep desire to make a difference in people's lives, and I suppose a willingness to take a chance and dive in at the deep end. The sailing's really a great example of that. My wife bought me a competent crew course as a way of trying to drag me away from the computer. And then within 18 months, I'd passed my coastal skipper qualification and bought a 38-foot sailing yacht. She jokes that it was my midlife crisis, but it's been one of those things that's given us a real great sort of adventure as a family. And I'm currently learning to dinghy sail with my boys on our home-based weekends. But I guess my internet marketing story really starts the day that I was made redundant. Until that point, I was following the usual corporate path and working my way up the management ladder in the IT department of a major multinational company. You know, the benefits were good, gave me a great grounding in finance and marketing and IT, but I never really felt comfortable with corporate life, and I'd always wanted to work for myself. So when an office relocation brought up the option of voluntary redundancy, I jumped for it. Over the next few years, I worked as a freelance IT consultant. And eventually I found myself working for a .com company in the internet boom in the early 2000s. And that was when the potential of the internet really hit me. I'd always loved learning to use computers and be creative with them. And, you know, as a boy, I'd spend endless hours typing pages of codes from computer magazines, only to find there was a misprint in there somewhere, and the program that I'd been spending hours on wouldn't run. And then I'd have to try and figure out what had gone wrong. But here in this internet company, there were people using that kind of knowledge to try and change the world, and I was really lit up by that. And even though my stock options eventually turned into toilet paper, I knew that the internet was something special, and I ended up renting a server and starting a small web hosting company as a sideline to my consultancy work, and as a way of earning some extra money while learning all about it. And that really continued until around 2003 when I got married. And that's when I started developing an interest in hypnotherapy. And I always remember the moment that it happened, that I was standing in a freezing cold server room looking at rows and rows of blinking lights. And then I kind of come to thinking that I wanted to learn something new and to do something that made a real difference in people's lives. So I retrained, I quit consulting as an IT consultant, I sold my web hosting business, and I started life as a hypnotherapist. And funnily enough, that's when the internet marketing side of things really started to grow for me. You see, hypnotherapy is quite a seasonal business. as well as quite emotionally draining. And I started wanting to share my knowledge and help more people than I could physically see in a week, as well as evening out the lumpy cash flow. I hadn't realized at the start, but one of the interesting thing about hypnotherapy is that the process of helping someone change and the process of marketing are really quite similar. You have to build up rapport and trust. You have to establish authority, or preeminence, as J. Abraham likes to call it. And then you have to lead the person from their problem state to the solution state, which in the case of marketing is hopefully via your product. And as backstories go, that's pretty much it. Over the last 10 years or so, I've built up a portfolio of self-help information products and membership sites. And over that time, I've had to learn to evolve my marketing approach as the public have become more savvy and more distracted by the junk mail and bombardment of stuff they're getting in their inboxes every day. And Automator is one of the tools that I've built along the way because it was something that I really needed in my business and for my own marketing. And I figured that it would be useful for other people too.
That's a great backstory. I'm so glad, having worked in sales before and journalism and copywriting, and to be where I am today, I'm so glad that you brought in the comparison between the hypnotherapy and marketing, because I think sales psychology is fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, it's a complete subject in its own right. It's amazing the way that the human beings are triggered into taking actions, and we like to think that we're completely rational and that everything is thought out, but really we act on emotion. And generally, one of the things that we say in the hypnotherapy world is that we go with our feelings and then we explain and give ourselves a good explanation of why we did something after the fact.
You talk about triggers there, which does tie in neatly with Automator, because we have event triggers and various other things we can do with it. But before we dig down into the details of the features of the product and how this can help us, could you segue into email segmentation in general and why it's so important when building your online business?
First off, we need to just sort of understand what segmentation is, and I'm sure everyone knows, but just so that we're all on the same page, it's the process of separating your email lists into small pockets of people who have the same information needs. And really that's so important no matter what your business, because regardless of your subject, and regardless of what you're trying to sell at the end of the day, your audience are all going to be at different stages and they're all going to have different information needs. And the hardest thing that it seems to be in marketing these days is to hold people's attention. Because even when you get a group of people together who want a single outcome, let's take this as an example. We all want to be content marketing champions. We all want that as the main goal, but we all have different needs. We're all at different stages. So some of your audience might be more interested in information on blogging. Some people want a strategy for social media or YouTube. Maybe it's conversion. I know you had a podcast on that the other week that was brilliant. It might be information on SEO or siloing your website or writing keynote content. The list goes on. And that's why segmentation is so important, because if you don't segment your list according to the stage that people are at and their information needs, then you end up losing their attention or just plain old annoying them. And with email, once they hit that unsubscribe button, they've gone for good. It's kind of like on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, I'm sure you've had some friends who keep sending you game requests or promoting something or airing their dirty laundry. And after a while, you sort of get to the point where you just want to unfriend them, even though sometimes they have something useful to say.
It occurs to me it's like when you're watching TV at a time period that's not for your demographic, and all the adverts you find incredibly irritating. But of course they know that a certain type of person is going to be watching TV at that time, so they're not directed at you. And the same thing can happen if you're not segmenting your email list properly. Your messages are going to fall between the cracks, aren't they?
I like to use a dating analogy. Email marketing is very much like the process of getting a second date. If content marketing's like making that good first impression and, being dressed right and attracting someone's eye, then content marketing gets you the phone number. It gets you the opportunity for a second date. But if you then start bombarding that person with phone calls and texts, as you would do with a standard autoresponder or broadcast sequence, they start to sort of run a mile because, they think you're some kind of weirdo. If you're sending them offers, it's like sending marriage proposals. They're just not at that stage of the relationship. So segmentation really helps you to make sure the right message gets to the right people at the right time. And using tools like Automator really allow you to get people to raise their hand and actually tell you what they're interested in.
Okay, and all the big internet marketers are doing this, Frank Kern, Ryan Deiss, and lots of people of that caliber. So I'm guessing, though, that lots of people listening to this maybe aren't segmenting their lists. Could you give us a couple of real-life examples where this would be necessary?
Yeah, I mean, the most important reason why segmentation is so vital these days is because when it comes to email marketing, the internet service providers and Yahoo and Google, they're getting really good at figuring out what is junk and what is legitimate email. And subscriber engagement, the way people interact with their emails, is starting to become a key signal factor as to whether your email goes straight to their inbox, straight to their junk box, or even doesn't get delivered at all.
That's frightening.
It is. Gone are the days where you could have a massive list and scattergun out a random broadcast and expect a big payday. Now you need to just make sure that you're going to send emails to the people who are engaged, people who actually want to open the email, who want what you're sending them, who actually are going to click on your links. Because the higher your open rate, the more engaged your readers are with the content, it sends a good signal to the ISP that you are sending good stuff. You are like the friend in their inbox rather than the marketer in their inbox. And then your emails will actually more likely to get through in the future. So that's really the most important reason why you need to be thinking about segmenting and targeting your emails. And one kind of example of where you might do this in your business is separating customers, people who have bought from you, from the people who are still getting to know you. I mentioned that date analogy. Previous customers have already committed to a bigger relationship with you, and they're much more likely to be receptive to other offers. Whereas people who are just getting to know you, just getting to read your content, and just beginning to engage with you are still at a stage where they need to know, like, and trust you more. So segmenting helps you target these specific pockets of people, the customers with messages for the offers to earn you money, and the people at a different stage of relationship with information that helps them to move forward, in their information needs. And by doing that, you become more of a trusted advisor, you become more of an authority. So it's kind of a win-win for the subscriber and for you and your business.
Okay, well, let's have a look at how Automator facilitates some of this. What's it capable of, and how can it help us given the context of what you just said?
Okay, so Automator is an add-on service for a Weber email service, and it lets you perform certain actions, things like moving or copying a subscriber between lists without using an opt-in form. It lets you, as we said, segment your subscribers by tagging them with notes. It lets you move them to a different part of your follow-up sequences, and it even lets you unsubscribe them altogether. And there are 4 main triggers you were alluding to earlier that you can choose that cause these actions to be performed, and they're what we call events. So, for example, you could use a link event, which is where a subscriber clicks a link in one of your emails. You can use an automation event, which is where the subscriber reaches a certain message in your follow-up sequence. You can use a page view event, which is where a subscriber visits a key page on your website. And we've just launched video events where it lets you track how much of a video subscribers watched and trigger the event if they reach a certain number of seconds watched. And you can combine these events in various ways to make sure that your subscribers get the information they're most interested in and to segment your lists. The official name, you mentioned Ryan Deiss and Frank Kern, they're all doing this kind of stuff. The official name for this kind of facility is Behavioural Dynamic Marketing. But I like to think of it as the kind of marketing version of those choose your own adventure books that you probably read when you were younger.
The thing that really excited me when I started sort of having a look around in the software, I was like a kid in a sweet shop, and I just thought, hang on, if you piece together, using that analogy of those books, which I used to have, the sort of Dungeons and Dragons type things where you get to a certain ending and you can choose where you go.
That's it.
With Automator, there's really nothing you can't do. By extension of having those 4 events, and you can really take your subscribers on a journey, on a storytelling journey. And it's the type of thing that experienced internet marketers have been doing for years with their email lists to get absolutely stellar results. There's another guy called Andre Chaperon who's an absolute master at telling stories and soap opera sequences through email. And Automator is perfectly aligned with that type of strategy, isn't it?
It is, and I'm a big fan of Andre's. And as a hypnotherapist, as someone that understands a little bit about the psychology of what makes us human, that storytelling approach is so vital. We're hardwired to listen to stories. For most of human existence until the rise of the information age, all of our information was really passed on in story form. So we're so receptive to stories. And Andre's soap opera sequence type approach is so keyed into that natural leaning that we have and that natural desire to engage with stories that I'm not surprised that his approach is so successful.
I've got a bit of a guilty secret with that. I bought his course years ago and I'm now on his email list and I welcome them coming into my inbox because I kind of just read his emails for fun because I look forward to getting them. He's that good.
It's a phenomenal step change. I've been using his kind of approach with Automator, this behavioural dynamic kind of thing. And the really interesting thing is, for the first time in years, recently of using the story approach, I've actually had subscribers email me because they didn't get one of the emails in the sequence. They said, I missed email number 3. Can you resend it? It's almost unheard of, in email marketing, that people will actually look out for your emails, follow a story from email to email, and actually miss an email and recognize that they've missed something and ask for it. It's amazing to me.
I mean, marketing is fascinating. Just really quickly before we move on to talk about some more features of Automator. Marketing is so fascinating because I did a screenwriting MA and that was going along and I write screenplays and books and things, nothing related to my marketing work. And then suddenly you're thinking, hang on, these aren't disparate elements. These are totally aligned. And like with your hypnotherapy and your cognitive therapy work, marketing brings in so much that's really fascinating. And that storylining, storytelling, and the product that you built, Automator, that facilitates that, they all sort of tie together. So I find it really interesting.
It is. I've, within this last year, discovered the art of storytelling, and I'm beginning to implement that approach through my various sequences. The idea of the hero's journey, and I think it was Christopher Vogler who wrote about The Hero with Many Faces, that talks about this kind of epic struggle, and it really fits into a marketing paradigm because you can slot it in that when a person gets to the point where they realize they have a problem that needs to be resolved, it's a bit like when the hero in a film suddenly realizes that they're expected to go on a journey. And the trials and tribulations of getting to the point where they get the fulfillment, the result they're looking for, and in a marketing sense, that's hopefully using your product, follows that similar kind of pattern of highs and lows and ebbs and flows. And it's a fascinating, I highly recommend digging into this kind of idea of the story paradigm and looking at Andre's stuff and Michael Haig's stuff. Really great approaches.
Just quickly, when you've been to the cinema and you're sitting there at the end and you've reached that sort of state of catharsis at the end, you've been sold to. The screenplay has sold you a line, just as a marketing email sequence would. So people who might be concerned about selling or, I don't like selling, it's not something I do. Stories are selling. They're selling a line of narrative or a line of action or a line of argument.
That's right. Moving away from this idea of buy my stuff, to telling stories about customers who have achieved a great result, kind of extended testimonials, if you like, over a period of emails where you can take them through the highs and lows and help them to experience, in hypnotherapy terms, we call it future pacing, leading them to where they want to be. As you say, by the time they get to that point of catharsis at the end, they are already sold. In their head, they've already reached that solution state, and all they really want to do then is take the journey they've just imagined. And hopefully that makes selling in a non-selling way a lot easier.
You're listening to the Content Champion Podcast, showcasing the best content marketing strategies across the web.
We're back with Rob Woodgate. Now let's return to Automator, your new Aweber email marketing segmentation software, because I know there's a lot more it's capable of. One of my favourite features, and something that I hadn't really seen before, was your dynamic campaigns that you can create just using one list with something you call the email spacer in Aweber. So can you tell us how that works?
As you said earlier, Automator is a suite of events and actions that you can arrange in any way you like. So what I've been doing is I've been applying Automator in my own businesses. I've been finding out ways that patterns that seem to work quite well. And one of the patterns that I've really found quite effective, and it models, you mentioned Frank Kern earlier, it models his goodwill sequence at a high level, is what I call the dynamic campaign. And it's a way of calling out your interested subscribers and leading them down that choose your own adventure kind of path to the more detailed information. So you avoid this burning out the people who aren't interested, because you're getting them to raise their hand and say, yes, actually, I'd like information on this particular subject. Tell me more. So the way the campaign is structured is that you have a series of 3 reminder emails in a list. So messages 1, 2, and 3 in the follow-up sequence would be teaser emails that invite your subscribers to click to get the detailed information and find out more. Now, if they click to find out more, then the click is registered by Automator through the link event, and it automatically skips them past the 3 reminders and into the section of the follow-up sequence that has the detail. So, for example, if they click after reminder email number 1, they go straight into the detail sequence and they don't get the subsequent reminders. But if they don't engage, then they're going to keep getting the reminders to give them a final chance to raise their hand. And if they've gone through all 3 reminders and they still haven't engaged by clicking through to the detail, then we're pretty sure at that point that the subject's not for them. So we don't want to keep bombarding them with stuff. Instead, what we do is we can use an automation event to move them to a different dynamic campaign that maybe better meets their needs, or back to your general broadcast list or wherever it is that you might want to take them. And because I like to keep things nice and tidy, I've kind of come up with this idea of the spacer email. And it's simply a blank follow-up message. So if you imagine the sequence of follow-ups, emails 1, 2, and 3 in your sequence would be your reminders, and email 4 would be just a blank email that I call the spacer email that has a delay set to 999 days. And what this does, it effectively creates a barrier between your reminders and the rest of the follow-up sequence. And because of the way you're using Automator's link and automation events with that spacer, it creates a decision point, a bit like, as we said in the Choose Your Own Adventure books. It gives the subscriber the time to either choose to engage by clicking the link in one of the reminders and moving past the spacer, or otherwise they sit there for whatever period of time you define, maybe 7 days, and then after that time, if they haven't engaged, you send them on somewhere else.
And this means we can avoid email list burnout, can't we? And we can have campaign with offer, they drop down back onto your broadcast list, another campaign offer, drop down onto your broadcast list, etc., and only the people who want to see certain things will be presented with them.
Exactly, yeah. So if you've got a non-responsive subscriber, all they're going to see are the 3 reminders. They're not going to get the detailed information. And in the example I give for the dynamic sequence, you might have 3, 4, 5 videos with more and more detailed information that ultimately lead to an offer. But you're not going to send that to people that haven't raised their hand by clicking the reminder emails. Only people that click through will go down that path. Everyone else, if they don't engage, all they're going to see is, hey, here's something great. Do you want it? No? Fine. Next campaign. Hey, how about this instead? So you've much less chance of burning out your subscribers by using this kind of approach than were you to just broadcast offer after offer after offer to your list.
And let's be clear, kind of the agility and the flexibility of Automator, the software that you've created. There are other much more expensive enterprise level pieces of software that are beyond many small businesses' reach for doing this type of thing. Those softwares do a similar type of thing, but yours is the first one I've seen that's within the reach of the solopreneur, the fledgling online entrepreneur, or the small business owner, or the blogger. And really, you can, if you get creative with it, what's exciting about it is you can take it anywhere, can't you?
Exactly right. If you follow any of the big names in marketing, the Frank Kerns, the Ryan Dices, they will all have their own particular high-end solution. And some of these can run to hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month. I wanted to have all the features and the functionality of that. Well, these high-end solutions obviously offer you extras and wrap things up in even better packages. But what I wanted to do with Automator was get the basics and the nuts and bolts of the most important tools and the most important events so that you can kind of create your own campaigns at a much lower entry point. So as you say, yeah, very much aimed at the solopreneur and people who are getting started out, people who aren't ready to be spending the hundreds of dollars every month on the high-end solutions.
And some of these nuts and bolts you mentioned, we're looking at things like tracking links using Google custom campaigns and cloaking affiliate links and things like that.
Absolutely, yes. So if you're using affiliate offers as part of your marketing, then Automator's link events are a fantastic way of cloaking the end affiliate link. But not only that, because you're using Automator's link in your emails, you then have the flexibility to expire the link at any time. And you keep control over the links. You can change the links later on, even after the emails have gone, because when they click the link in your email, Automator will check to see which URL you've got currently set for that event, and or whether it should be allowed to go through, or whether to send them to an expired URL. So you keep control. And what you can find is that if an affiliate offer changes, or maybe they change systems, you can update your links in Automator, and that automatically fixes the links in your emails that you've previously sent. So if someone goes back 2 months and clicks a link in an email, it's still there for you.
And it's brilliant as well because you can create genuine scarcity on an evergreen basis using some of those tools. So you can have your little mini email sequence going out over, say, 3 or 4 days. And then the final email, the one they get the last chance to click on, you can say, well, this link is going to expire in 4 days. So effectively, they've had a 7-day window to buy a product, after which the link will expire. So it's kind of like its own little countdown timer, isn't it?
Most consumers are aware of false scarcity and links that never expire. You say they're going to expire, the offers will end. But with Automator, as you said, on an evergreen basis, you can time links to expire, for example, next Friday. So they're relative to the date the email goes out. And you can actually specify a period of days, or a day of the week. So you could say expire next Friday at a minute to midnight. And Automator, as it sends its emails out, will always make sure the link is expiring relative to when that email got sent. So it gives you the ability to build that trust even more by having genuine scarcity.
Do you know what I'd love to see as well in future? If you ever really think about it, a process whereby that expiring link can be tied into a graphical representation of a countdown timer that you can then add into the email as well. That would be fantastic. That'd be a real killer feature as well.
I'm just jotting that one down.
Because I've not seen that several days after. I've seen the date, but I've not seen, as you say, in 4 days' time, because then it's not determined by the actual physical calendar date, which is a key difference. Okay, as I've been saying all the way through, I love this software. I could go on talking about it all day. Automator is going to be a game changer, so I'm recommending this product wholeheartedly. If new users sign up now, they can get a special deal, can't they? And I'll link to this at contentchampion.com/AWT. So can you give us the details of your launch pricing, please, Rob?
That's really great. Thank you, Lozzie. I'm always thrilled, and I'm pretty humbled to hear how much people like Automator, and how they're finding ways of finding it useful in their marketing. I'm a firm believer that results should speak to themselves. So what we're doing is we're offering a 30-day free trial of Automator, so you can test it out with your lists and see how it works for you. You can actually start to put it to use, segmenting your lists. And that's a totally free trial. There's no credit card or sneaky forced continuity or any of those other kind of shenanigans. The deal is if you like it and you decide to upgrade to a paid account in the first 30 days, you can lock in an annual discount of 33%. Otherwise, it's a flat $27 a month as a pay-as-you-go. So if you try and decide it's not for you, the account cancels itself automatically and you're done.
Well, I advise everyone to go and take you up on that offer, because after this call, I'm going to build a load more links. I've got a load of great ideas from our chat, and there are some campaigns that I'm rolling out, and I've just seen another couple of ways, little intricate details I'm going to add in using these trigger events. So it's all good. Go to contentchampion.com/AWT. You'll get a link to everything Rob was just talking about.
And Loz, if any of your subscribers who sign up want some help or advice on getting the most out of it or setting up any campaigns, they're really welcome to email in, and I'll answer those questions.
Wait for it, listeners. Here comes the PS question.
Could you share another email marketing tactic that we can use right after this show, please?
As a content marketer, I think, as we've said through this call, it's vital to know what your audience's needs are and start to develop that conversation and relationship with them. And really one of the best ways I found of doing that is to run a simple survey. So what I like to do is to offer a bullet list of areas that a subscriber might be interested in, and then also ask an open-ended question, something like the classic, what's your biggest challenge or question when it comes to your subject? Because these kind of surveys give you a wealth of information and ideas, not only for ongoing content, but you can use the survey answers as a way of segmenting your list. So, for example, if you use WordPress as your website engine, then there are loads of quiz and survey plugins out there. The one I like to use is called Quizmaster Next by a programmer called Frank Corso. And that one lets you specify different results, landing pages, depending on the option that they've selected. So if for content marketing, you asked, which area you're most interested in, is it SEO, blogging, social media strategy? You could then, depending on the answer they pick, put them on a different landing page and then use an Automator page event in the background to tag and segment them automatically. But even if you don't use WordPress or you don't want to mess around with plugins, it can be as simple as sending an email to your list asking them to click the option they're most interested in. And then the trick there is to use an automated link event as the link for each option, so that when they click through, they can all go to the same landing page that says, hey, great, thanks for sharing that with me. But the link event will then tag them. So doing a survey, asking for feedback by email or running a little quiz on your website is a great way of engaging your subscribers, getting that information and segmenting them at the same time. So if you're going to do anything in your first 30 days with Automator, I'd probably suggest that would be it.
That's just brilliant. I'm going to go back and listen to that when I'm editing it and implement something exactly like it. Thanks, Rob. That's a great chat. I've learned a lot about you, a lot about what Automator is capable of, a lot about email segmenting, and you've given me loads of great ideas, as I'm sure you have our listeners. So all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for your time today, and I wish you every success in future.
Thanks, Loz. It's been lovely to chat with you. Thanks for having me on.
You've been listening to the Content Champion Podcast. Available at contentchampion.com, Stitcher, Zune, the BlackBerry Network, and on iTunes. Until next time, thanks for listening.